All right, looks like we are live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. This one is episode 113. I am one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadotte, and with me as always is the ever adorable and indomitable Owen Adams.
It's true, I cannot be dominated.
So yes, welcome. And happy Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day.
Starting off light, I see.
I just saw that on the Time Is. For those who don't know, that's the website that we use to actually sync our audio.
Do you know what? I honestly thought you were going to start by explaining what the Armenian genocide was, and I was like, I want to know how much he actually knows about this.
Yeah, the Turks and the... No, okay.
It's funny because the episode... I might just leave it there. It's funny. The episode I just edited and posted to the RSS feed because we're a little bit behind for people who've been following those ones. Just a few weeks of technical hitches. I was skipping around trying to find some bits for the episode summary, and I got to a bit where we were talking about masturbating over news footage of Bosnia. And I'd forgotten that conversation. I'll be honest. But,
that's kind of a good one to forget, you know?
I would say so. Well,
yeah. I'm trying to actually remove it again from my head as we speak.
So how are you, John? How are things? Are you having a good time?
I am actually doing quite well.
Oh, yeah?
It's been a pretty good week for me.
Good.
I went to a jazz fest over the weekend.
Jazz fest. Specifically jazz.
Yeah, specifically jazz.
As a jazz festival, does it start off with kind of the structure you'd expect for a festival and then deviate the further you get into the event?
Until by the end it's just a giant cacophony of people and alcohol and drug use.
Like any other festival.
Yeah, no, pretty much. This one is actually pretty cool. It was in this town, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and it was a 2-day festival, but they kind of have it broken up into, I guess, 2 different things. The second night, it's just this one theater, and they have some headliners, and it's more of just a series of structured concerts, and you buy tickets and all that stuff for it. The first night, though, there's a street called West Barstow Street in Eau Claire.
Right.
Or, not West Barstow, just Barstow. And they just locked the whole sucker down. And every bar, store, restaurant, pub, alleyway has some band playing.
Right.
I think there was something like 20 some odd bands playing.
So the whole town becomes the festival.
Well, that street.
Well, that's true. Is it like, have you ever, I don't know if you have these in America, have you ever been through a town that's having a scarecrow festival?
Ooh, no.
Here, you see them in country towns here, they will have scarecrow festivals, happens in little villages, and you'll drive through them and just every building will be adorned with a scarecrow of a design, and they'll be like, you'll go through and you'll be like, oh look, it's Buzz Lightyear, but a scarecrow. Oh look, it's some local celebrity as a scarecrow, and then you get to like one built by like the high school class, and it's, oh look, it's the Angel of Death peering into my soul as a scarecrow.
Yeah, there's always that one person who takes it just a little too far. You know, I mean, we get that in like for Halloween a lot,
right?
Because, you know, pretty much any holiday over here is kind of an excuse to decorate your house or your lawn or something.
Right.
And the big ones, of course, are Christmas. People, cover their entire house with strings of lights.
I like the way you started that sentence like it was a list, but it only ended in Christmas.
Well, no, like I said, the big one is Christmas, but the next one in line is definitely Halloween.
Right.
And Pat Oswalt actually made a joke about it, but it rings incredibly true. Guys who live in the suburbs tend to go just a little too far with their Halloween direction.
We do have this with Christmas lights here.
Oh yeah, they go real far for Christmas here too. But when it comes to Halloween, there's a certain point where it's no longer we're decorating for Halloween, as it is, I have some deep-seated fucking problems, and I'm letting them out via my decorations, because like, oh, and here we have someone who put, a paper black cat on their door, and that's nice, some orange and black lights, okay, cute. And over here we have what appears to be the recreation of a family murder-suicide, with accurate arterial spray across the side of the building.
See, I don't think that's the case. I think every year you've witnessed horrible crimes on Halloween and assumed it's decorators getting out of hand. I see Phil next doors removed his innards and laid himself over the mantle again.
It's getting old hat, Phil. It's getting old hat.
Please, call an ambulance.
Yeah, I ain't falling for it this time.
Dying, repent thy sins.
Yeah. But, no, it gets like that. But actually kind of, but no, the festival was, it's just amusing. It was an excuse for everyone to just pour into all the bars and stuff, drink, listen to music.
Right.
And it was good. It was pretty good. It was, it was a really good time. The environment was well.
Did you see any acts I might have heard of?
No, these were mostly local acts playing in the bars,
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, either guy. Oh, excuse me. It was either guys, who were, they had their weekend band, that they get together and jam a little bit, or maybe they do a light touring around the local states.
If I leave here tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's not jazz. Yeah, we only have one band in this town, and it's the high school cover band. Would you still remember? Come on, play something with a little class. Do 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 do, and she's buying us. No, do the jazz.
Come on, give us a little jazz. I want it painted black.
In what way are you a jazz band? Well, every so often Carl plays the wrong note.
There was one band right at the end, because basically how it was working out is, everywhere had their bands playing, but then most of them were, we're gonna kind of close up shop a little early around midnight.
Wait, the festival ended early?
Well, not the festival, but the venues started kind of closing up, and then by the end of the night, by like 2 o'clock in the morning, there was like 3 or 4 bars that still had someone playing. So everyone who was still out and about was trying to pour into like these 4 bars.
The same tiny bar.
Yeah, no, it was madness, and
in the middle, someone goes, "Hey, aren't you the guy that criticized Murphy's Pub? Aren't you the bar hater?"
That's me. It says, you better show me a damn good time or I'm going to write a blog.
And mind you, it's the jazz festival, so it'd probably go over pretty well,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. But the band that was playing at the one they were doing a little bit more, I don't know, like funk and soul. They were like, playing like Sly and the Family Stone, and they were playing
Right.
Earth, Wind and Fire. Although they did a rendition of Dock of the Bay. That was all funkified, I guess.
I mean, isn't that song already
really-
pretty funk? But it's a slow song.
No. I mean, it was more, that more classic R&B sound to it.
Sing it for me. Sing it how they sung it, John. Enlighten me.
No, I'm good.
Paint me like one of your French girls.
Again. Look, I can only get so many angles, Owen.
No, I'm glad you had a good time. Did anything amusing happen?
Yeah, there. At least
Sorry,
amusing to me.
that was a hell of a segue.
Gee, I thought, just the idea of a nice music festival would have been amusing enough for you, but no, apparently
This
you have this
story can only
idea
get
of my
better
life.
this story can only get better though if it ends with a hilarious misunderstanding in a fast food restaurant, as so many of your stories do.
No, not really. I did have a weird
We have a
moment
new
at Taco
record.
Bell.
We have a new record. I think it's, well, how long have we gone? 10 minutes now without a story of John's fast food mishaps.
Well, I mean, it's not really a mishap, but
Right.
I did go to Taco Bell beforehand,
Uh-huh.
and I got kind of weirded out because Taco Bell used to be like based on a number system, where you'd go there, you order your food, and you're like, okay, your order 28,
Right.
and then when your food was ready, like, all right, 28, and you
They
go
just
grab your damn food.
they just added that to McDonald's here.
It's a perfect system, all right? It's just fine.
Right.
No need to change the number system. It's great.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
But when I went there, when I finished my order, they're like, all right, what's your name? I'm like, what?
Well, this is new and
What's your
dangerous.
I was just like, all right, Jonathan. Okay. And it's like, what jackass, all right? Because there had to be one. There had to be just some asshole who goes, I'm not a number, all right? I'm a fucking human being. You can call me by my name. I ain't going to be labeled by no fucking number, especially by you, Taco Bell. So they had to fucking change it franchise-wide because one asshole didn't like being assigned a digit for his fucking Cruncherito.
And when he left, they hit a little button under the Taco Bell counter, and the white balloon from under the ocean rose to the surface instead of chasing him. Retrieve the prisoner. Sorry, that's a
Wow,
really
that's a
obscure
reference.
British TV reference.
Yeah,
But-
you are number 2.
Why am I here? He moves to this little English village.
Yeah, he just wakes up in England. Oh, whoa!
He's got the
Doesn't
little,
south of the border at all.
the little black and white blazer on. I'm never ordering from
but-
Taco Bell again.
No, because you're stuck in a fucking English village. But,
Good show.
Yeah, no. So I guess to me the one kind of funny thing that happened in my eyes is so as we're hopping about the festival, we're going from bar to bar and whatnot. I keep on recognizing this one woman. And
Right.
it's like, geez, like I'm seeing her everywhere. And she was always by herself, and she would kind of stand there by herself for a while, look around, and leave. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started to get the impression that, oh, maybe she's I don't know, lonely, or maybe she, maybe she's out, trying to snag, maybe she's trying to hook up or something, right?
So what I'm curious is, was this your logic center or your horny wishful thinking center? Like which part of the brain? Which part of the brain was responsible for this conclusion?
Maybe both.
Oh, the horny, logical, desperate part of the brain.
Yeah, haven't you heard of it?
Heard it, baby. I live it.
I make all my best decisions with that part of my body. But I think I actually was correct in my original assumption, because at the end of the night, me and the person I was with, we're sat there at this one bar, and we step outside. I have a cigarette, and while we're outside, we see this girl literally dragging this guy behind her. Like, she has him by the shirt, and she is just pulling him off into the distance. It's just like, and like, I mean, he's definitely not struggling. He's just having a hard time keeping up.
Right.
And so like, oh, yep, she found her dick for the night. Well done.
You know, you are the supporting character from like the first or second Killing in a Species sequel. You know what I mean?
The horny guy who gets
right, but you're the supporting one. You're the one who looks and goes, "Wow, that guy's getting lucky," and later on you wander into a room and find his skin. You know?
Right.
And you're probably still like, so lucky. You're like high-fiving the flappy man leather. You're like, yeah, boy, you got some.
High five. Flap, 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 flap.
Flap, flap, flap.
No, there was definitely kind of a, I don't know, man. It's hard to kind of explain this, but there's definitely a amorous, like, atmosphere towards the end of the night.
Right.
It seemed like he's like everyone. It seemed like was kind of pairing off, and everyone's kind of sneaking
we're all
off
sick
in the
of jazz. Let's fuck.
Or maybe it was the jazz, you know?
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it worked in the 50s. Why not now?
It worked. Well, you know, the Nazis hated jazz. They thought it was sexual.
Well, it kind of is, actually, if you look at the history of
yeah.
jazz. It started out in brothels and stuff.
And a lot of black culture was stereotyped as being vulgar, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so much so that we saw one of the musicians who was playing at this one bar. They they finish up, and the band starts, packing up their stuff, and he grabs his guitar case, and he starts kind of wandering out, and this girl comes up and starts talking to him. And I don't hear what they say at first, but he goes, I do hear him go, all right, if you want to, but here, you gotta carry this, and hands her a music stand. So you see him walking down the street with his guitar case, and this girl in like high heels, like tight shorts, low cut top. She's out, she's in her finest nightwear, I guess. And she's just stumbling behind him, carrying this music stand. I'm like, I'm coming.
That was the unluckiest groupie. 3 weeks later, she's going from show to show, assembling drum kits,
setting up sound systems.
30 years later, they're like,
so feedback that last gig. Do something about that.
We're here with Madeline Schweizer. We want to talk about how she became the most prestigious sound engineer in the jazz industry. Well,
I wanted to get laid.
I started off as a legal student, but
then one night, I just wanted to hook up with this guy, And
Son of a bitch made me carry all his shit.
Like he's still playing mid-level city jazz fest, and here I am setting up sound equipment for Buddy Guy.
What you don't know is that the bit of the conversation you missed was she said, could you teach me how to get muscles in your arms just like yours? All right, but you're gonna have to carry my guitar case.
He's her Mr. Miyagi.
Jazz on, jazz off.
Jazz off.
The Karate Kid was a really
good
bad
time.
film. Have you ever seen that other film he's in? The kid from the Karate Kid, with
Ralph Macchio?
Yeah, Crossroads. You ever seen that movie?
No.
It's a really bad movie. Ralph Macchio plays the Karate Kid, but not interested in karate. He's a guitar player, and he goes to a music school where his tutor always keeps making him learn these neoclassical pieces, right? And learn all this discipline stuff. But he just wants to play blues and rock and roll. And he meets this old man in a retirement home who tells him that many years ago he swapped his soul with the devil at the crossroads to be the world's best harmonica player. and he's just alone in a retirement home. And then the rest of the movie is this really, really, really long, very boring, not particularly good road trip where the Karate Kid and a really, really, really old black man who plays the harmonica moderately well travel across country so he can get his soul back from the devil. And when it comes to the big final climax, and it's really weird, actually. It's one of these really odd choices. Ralph Macchio gets out his Fender Telecaster and meets the devil's champion, who is played by Steve Vai. And he's a guitar player who also traded his soul to the devil for really good guitar skills. And they go head-to-head in a guitar-playing duel. And in a real fit of weirdness, Ralph Macchio beats him by outplaying him at some weird neoclassical piece. And I'm like, but I thought I wanted to play blues! It's a terrible film, but it's the only other thing I ever saw him in. Was he in anything other than the Karate Kid and that?
I don't know.
And, Starbucks menus, Oh my god, he's 55? What?
Really?
How can he be 55? He was in the Karate Kid, Crossroads. Oh, apparently he was... Oh, that's what I remember him in. He was in My Cousin Vinny, but as an adult. He was Vinny's cousin. He had a cousin named Vinny in the movie My Cousin Vinny.
I don't know. I know he guest starred a few episodes of How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, fair enough. Well, his career's just rocketing away then.
Well, because the running joke is in How I Met Your Mother is Barney Stinson, or Neil Patrick Harris's character, was convinced as a kid that what the hell's his name? The blonde kid from the Karate Kid, the
bad one,
the kid from Cobra Kai,
the mean one, the villain kid.
Yeah, the villain kid.
It has been a long time since I saw those films, so
yeah. Neil Patrick Harris's character is convinced that he was always the hero of the movie. And no one ever told him otherwise.
That'd be great. I've never watched that show. I really should one of these days.
It's actually pretty good. Some people give it shit, but I think it's actually a really solid sitcom.
I mentioned it on Ralph Macchio's Wikipedia. Oh, I should just say hello to Svenny Games in the chat, and hello to Scott Thurbeck, who said, I assume Macchio did some adult films. And then in quotes, adult, I should say. Now I want to know, is that assume or assume? As in...
assume.
I assume, based on absolutely no evidence, having definitely not seen them...
No. It's okay, man.
I what I like is this. It says here, this is from Ralph Macchio's...
Kid. Yes!
This is from Ralph Macchio's Wikipedia page. It says, in 1983, he appeared as Johnny Cade in The Outsiders, along many young actors who had yet to become stars, such as C. Thomas Howell, Tom Cruise, Emilio Estevez, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, and Matt Dillon. Can you imagine how sad that must feel? What's the opposite of survivor's guilt?
Dead, actually.
Like, can you imagine being like... Do you think he signs his name? Ralph Macchio, co-star of Tom Cruise, Emilio Estevez, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, and Matt Dillon. And who's the other one? C. Thomas Howell.
You're including Emilio Estevez and Matt Dillon as the same caliber as...
Okay, right. But here's the thing. Okay, Emilio Estevez compared to Tom Cruise. Okay, you know when people say, the first dinosaurs... The gap between, like, the earliest dinosaurs and the latest dinosaurs is bigger than the gap between the dinosaurs and us, right? You know when people use that analogy? The gap between Ralph Macchio and Emilio Estevez is significantly smaller than the gap between Tom Cruise and Emilio Estevez.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, no, that was kind of my weekend.
We have a question, if you'd like to get it. Should we do it?
Oh, sure.
Scott Thurbeck says, question, if you had to slaughter the cast of The Love Boat, how would you do it? Ideally in a manner fitting the style of the show. I'm at a disadvantage here because I've never seen an episode of The Love Boat. I only know roughly the theme tune.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one.
Like, I just tried to remember which one The Love Boat was, and I realized I was thinking about it for a few minutes before I realized I was thinking about Gilligan's Island. And then not even similar shows.
But I'll play along. How would I slaughter the cast of The Love Boat that was fitting for the show? So I'm assuming the show was probably one of those things where it's like every episode there was like some couple on
Scott says, I have other shows. So if you don't want to do Love Boat...
No, you made your choice, Scott.
You gotta stick with it, sir.
You chose the podcast hosted by two 29-year-olds who were born in the late 80s, and you chose The Love Boat.
Yeah, Love Boat. The Love Boat television series, according to this, ended its regular run the year before I was born.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna slaughter The Love Boat, I guess you just sink the damn boat, right? Slowly.
Scott says no escape from The Love Boat. Fair enough. See, all I know about The Love Boat is it was about a cruise ship, right? It was
right.
And it was like, it was vaguely similar to, what was that one? The plane! It was like that without the magic, right?
I guess. I have never seen it, Owen.
Neither have I just vaguely remember it. Fantasy Island, we could do that one instead. I don't know. But no, I don't know. Let's see. In a manner in keeping with the show. Okay. Using my training from the Special Forces, I would, as guest star on the show, Chuck Norris. I would sneak aboard the Love Boat while it was making a stop, where I would proceed to individually find all the regular cast and tie them up in that cabin. Then I would slowly, using only a Swiss Army knife, torture and disembowel them graphically on screen. while their screams echo through the TV sets. Would this be in keeping with the style of the show? I don't know, but I hope so. Oh, apparently that was Fantasy Island, the plane. The plane. I've seen that one. That's pretty good. What is it, Ricardo Montalban?
Yeah, Montalban. Not Montalban.
Montalban. Well, hey, I've only seen it written down. Sue me. Khan. It was the midget from Man with the Golden Gun and Khan, right? That's...
Yes.
I would have loved it if it was specifically the midget from Man with the Golden Gun and Khan. All the way through, he's like, "The plane, boss, the plane." Yeah, I will get Jim Kirk.
I will leave you as you left me.
Scott says it would be in keeping if you sang a ballad as you killed.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, it's that then. Yeah, I've never seen The Love Boat.
Yeah, as you're killing them. Reflections of the way life used to be.
Here's something I can say about The Love Boat, so my only memory of it. When I was a kid, my parents were separated, right? And my mum didn't have a TV, and I lived with my mum most of the time when I was growing up, and then I would go and stay with my dad on weekends and holidays. And so I was kind of a TV addict, because all the way through the week, I would have no TV. And then, if I guess, TV. When you live in that situation, you'll watch anything, right? You know?
Right.
You'll soak it up. And I remember The Love Boat would be on Sunday afternoons, repeats, middle of the daytime television. And what I can safely remember about it is, I found it so boring, I didn't even watch it in my TV-starved life. The other one was, what was the one? Do you remember the TV show about doctors that flew around in an aeroplane? What was that one called?
Airwolf?
No, or what? Airwolf had doctors in it now?
No.
It was about a team of medics. They flew around in a plane. I remember that one. That was one of those shows where whenever you wanted to watch TV, you were really in the mood to sit down and watch some interesting TV. It'd be that fucking show. You'd be like, oh, do you know what was another one for that? It was the worst television show in all history for that. Sequest DSV. Where you'd be like, oh, what's this? And then there'd be an opening credit sequence. You'd be like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. And then the music would play. And then it would play out, and you'd be like, fucking hell, this is boring. Oh my, what a depressing television show that was.
The one for me that used to just drive me nuts, it would always be like, okay, I stayed home from school or something, I was, sick. Okay.
Right.
So first up, I'm going to watch The Price is Right. You always watch The fucking Price is Right. And then afterwards, it would always be like, okay, let's see what's going to happen next. And then you'd hear it, that it never failed. It was always Murder, She Wrote. Always fucking Murder, She Wrote.
And
yeah.
Always like the same plot, different episodes.
Right. At what point do the cops just start to suspect her? Because she's a mystery writer who is always around actual murders.
And you'd always
it's
if you ever came
instinct.
If you ever came through an episode of that, if you ever came halfway through, it would always be the scene where she's following someone into a restaurant. Oh, hiding behind a menu. Scott Thurbeck in chat says it was called Flying Doctors from the outback of Australia. Yes, it was set in Australia. I remember that now. It was just called Flying Doctors. There was a TV show about doctors in an aeroplane. I couldn't remember what it was called. It was called Flying Doctors. It might as well have been called Doctors in an Aeroplane. And I couldn't get there. Did you ever watch Sequest DSV though? That was pretty bad, right? It's not just my imagination. I remember that being pretty terrible.
There's only one episode I actually remember, and for some reason I don't know why I remember this. I think it might be because it was the one time they actually expanded on what the actual world was like in that show.
Is it the one where the ship's just on land at the beginning of the episode? Because that's the only one I remember.
It was something to do with because apparently in their world or in their future, there's no more trees.
Right.
So they have these big like oxygen plants that they're just giant factories that make air.
Right.
And especially, I guess, Sequest was tracking down some group that was trying to blow them up. I don't know. But I just remember them talking about these fucking oxygen factories.
It was surprisingly boring for a show with a talking dolphin in, right? You know?
Right?
And whenever that dolphin was talking, it was like you were watching Power Rangers. Like it just had that weird tone to it, you know? He's bobbing at the camera. Speaking of game shows, by the way, with The Price is Right, did you see this Wheel of Fortune? This guy on Wheel of Fortune last week?
No.
He had to solve the puzzle. It was a streetcar N-A blank E-D desire. And he was like, K? A streetcar naked desire.
What? Don't judge me. Don't fucking judge me. We all like what we like.
It's great. I was thrilled with that. That was one of my favorite little bits of information. I mean, like, failures on Wheel of Fortune are the best game show failures anyway. But that particular one I just thought was very good. Streetcar Naked Desire.
So, I mean, I guess it's not really much of a story, but I guess something else kind of happened to me today.
Oh, yeah?
I kind of teased it a little bit in the tweet, but I got so incredibly angry today. Like, I mean, I feel like because of this show, so a lot of people get this idea that I am an angry person.
Oh really no! How would they get that impression?
I'm really not an angry person. I kind of play it up a lot for the show, but today was one of those times where there was no way around it. I was, and it's one of those things where, okay, it's one of those things. It's hard to start this out. I live in a small town, as I've said many times before.
Uh-huh.
And one of the bullshit things that people always like to do about small towns is convince themselves that somehow living in the small town is better than living in a city.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And which is fine. You can prefer to live in a small town than a city. That's fine. Nothing wrong with it.
Hear that, people? You have John's permission to prefer living in a small town.
That's right.
If prior to this you had some shame...
If you're on the fence, I'm telling you, just go for it, all right? But do it honestly, all right? Because here's the problem. A lot of people base their decision on fucking lies. Right? And one of those lies is, what I like so much about being in the small town is that everyone's your neighbor. You know everybody. No, that's the worst fucking thing on the planet. Right? And this is why murders happen in small towns. Because you have the same fucking annoyances that you do in big cities, but in a small town it takes on a much more personal feel to it.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. So I'm driving to the store. All right. It's about I live a little bit out in the country, so I'm gonna say it's about 10 miles. It's a little bit less, but that's a nice round number. And I'm driving. It's a beautiful day today. I have the windows down in my car. I got my MP3 player going. Well, my cell phone, but you know what I'm going with.
Yeah, I think you were just having a flashback there. Like an iPod era flashback.
One of my favorite songs comes on. I got it blasted, the windows down. I'm feeling real good, you know. And I'm driving, and I'm on this.
And I'm feeling good. Yeah.
You know, and I'm on this little kind of curvy road, So there's not a lot of places you can pass people on it. And I'm driving, and I see this guy in his parking lot. He's pulling out of his driveway. And I see him, I'm like, hey, yeah, buddy, you get out and go for a drive too, man. It's a beautiful day for it. Feel the wind in your ear. You feel great. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you pulling out now? Wait till I pass you. Wait till I pass you. There's no one behind me. You don't have to. God damn it! God damn it! The guy pulled out in front of me. I had to fucking hit my brakes. I had to go from 60 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour. And
isn't the speed limit 55 in America?
Sometimes.
No, continue.
So my cell phone goes flying off my seat. It pulls the aux cable out of my thing. My song is now gone. It's now just staticky radio. There's no more wind going through my hair because I had to slow down so goddamn much. And I was like, motherfucker. This motherfucker couldn't wait 5 extra seconds to pull out behind me because there's no one else fucking behind me. He could have gone as slow as he fucking wanted and wouldn't have bothered anybody. Wouldn't have bothered anyone. So I fucking, I just drive to the store and I'm just like, God, pull into the parking lot, get out of my car just in time to see him pull into the fucking parking lot, get out of his car, and now I have to see his dumb fucking face, and I'm just like, fuck this small town. Man. It's not okay. Right? It's just not okay. Are you singing the Lord of the Rings music?
It was the sad music from Titanic.
Oh, okay.
I was thought we could use some sort of pathos to kind of bring home how truly heart-wrenching this situation is.
But this shit happens all the time in small towns. All the time. You wake up one day and it's just like, all right, you gotta go to work. You go to work. You have a rough day at work. It's starting to get to you. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Just gonna go home, relax, whatever. You get home, you relax, like, okay, just go to sleep, you'll tackle the day tomorrow.
See, I don't dispute that a small town is the cause of this, but what I think is actually, like, in a more indirect sense, I think it's just that they know who you are, and they don't give a shit.
Could be. but like, every kind of, like, moment you have as, like, a real human being, like a real human moment in your life, it's always witnessed by someone. Because, like I was saying, so you try to go to sleep, and you can't sleep because you're still stressed out because something happening at work. And you're like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to drive to Walmart. I'm going to get some food. I'm a little hungry. It'll be fine. All right? So you get up out of bed. You're scrambling around for clothes. All you can find is your Bar League softball jersey, which was sponsored by a strip club the year before, so there's naked women on it. You throw that bitch on, it's hot pink. You throw on some, like, basketball shorts.
I love how you're saying this like it's sort of universally relatable, when actually it's like the most John story I've ever heard. All it needs is a burrito in it, and it's gonna be like no one else could claim this tale.
Okay, fine.
It's like Michael Jackson going, like, you wake up, you say hello to your 5 brothers, you look in your skin in the mirror, it's not as dark as it used to be, and then you get out and you sit in your recording studio surrounded by all your gold records, and you worry about your latest child molestation charge, all these general things, things that apply to everyone.
That is specifically, that story right there is specifically a Michael Jackson and Owen Adams story, all right?
Yeah, well, I mean, me and the King of Pop had a lot in common, but...
Right. Child molestation. But, okay, fine. Maybe I was a little too specific, but you look a wreck, all right?
Maybe you were a little too... Yeah. No, continue accusing me of child molestation, it's fine. We'll just breeze past that, John. We'll just breeze past that.
I'm sorry. Okay, so basically what I'm going for is you look terrible, but you're going to Walmart and you know you're safe there. You know you're safe because the only people who are going to be there at 4 o'clock in the goddamn morning are the workers who are zombified anyways and other people who are basically like you. Great. So you go there and they have like these subs. They have these subs at the deli. It's like, oh, these huge ass subs. You grab one of those, you go to your car, you're like, oh, I could just eat it when I get home, but I'm really hungry right now. So you're sitting in your goddamn in the parking lot at 4 o'clock in the morning eating this sub. You look terrible, and you have crumbs on your face and maybe some mayonnaise or mustard or something. And you look over to your right, and what do you know? It's your 4th grade fucking English teacher, and he's just shaking his head at you like, oh, well, all that wasted potential. It's like, no, fuck, man.
What I like is I'm fairly sure this has happened to you at least 5 or 6 times.
But that's the shit that happens in small towns. Like, anywhere else, I would be able to just eat my fucking sub in peace, look stupid, and no one would have any clue who I was. But no, I got my...
When I was in high school, I had one teacher who I really respected. You know those teachers who they always believe in you and they encourage you to do great things?
Yeah.
I wasn't even in the town I went to school in. He wandered into the supermarket I worked at for 5 years the day I started working there. When I was in my store greeter t-shirt that said, "Hi, I am here to help" on the front. These things happen, and I was born and raised in one of the biggest cities in the north of England. This happens wherever you live. Life is terrible.
I don't believe it. I refuse.
Atrocious. Did you see the incredibly impressive and important science news that broke this week, by the way?
No.
It's crucial. Hold on, I'll pull up the full details. Scientists have discovered and named a new type of aurora. You heard about this?
No.
So there's a new type of aurora, basically. It comes when certain types of fast-flowing gas appear in the higher atmosphere, and then it creates like rainbow effects and things like that, right? You know what auroras are, right? Really, apparently it's a really beautiful lighting effect. It's pretty common, but it hasn't been noticed because it's in quite specific environments, you know? Mm-hmm. And they've named it Steve.
You sure it wasn't a Rory McAurora face?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. What's kind of great is now every time that scientists have to refer to it, and so it says there are reports that the group called it Steve in homage to a 2006 children's film Over the Hedge, where the characters give the name to a creature they have not seen before. Great, but then you get paragraphs like this. It turns out that Steve is actually remarkably common, but we hadn't noticed it before. It's thanks to ground-based observation satellites, today's explosion of access to data, and an army of citizen scientists joining forces to document it. Lots of people have talked about it, scientifically speaking, but that's its official name. And so you keep getting sentences like, Steve can be seen when certain amounts of gas interact with the atmosphere in a specific way. I think this is wonderful.
No, I think it's great.
If you're going to name a phenomenon, give it a name it can live with. That's the advice we give to parents, and I stand by it. Steve.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's like you can be like, "Oh, what are you doing tonight?" Steve watching.
But this is bad if you know someone called Steve.
Oh, I think it makes it even better. You have a perfect alibi.
It's like, have you heard this this gene that's called Sonic Hedgehog?
I have heard that, yes.
But when it goes wrong, it triggers a kind of serious child cancer. And so they're campaigning to have the name changed because they're getting a little bit tired of having to say to people, so this is the type of illness that your child has. It occurs when something goes wrong in the reproduction of their sonic hedgehog.
I mean, be fair, like, all that medical stuff is always kind of jargon anyways, so when you're laying that on the line, it's like, well, what we're looking at here is like a complete failure of the endochromatic system due to the Sonic the Hedgehog gene failing, and no one's going to notice. No one notices. There's going to be 1 out of every 10 parents going, wait, what?
Right, and they're going,
You want to go through that one more time?
First Sonic 06, now this. Damn you, Hedgehog!
We had such high hopes for Boom.
Yeah, well, Sonic Boom is child cancer.
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, no, I liked it. Aurora called Steve. I'm all in favor of it.
Yeah, I'm into it.
There was some news. I have a news story I'd like to read, by the way,
Sure.
as well, at some point. Shall I go straight into this?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask you if you've been playing or reading or doing anything this week.
Oh, well, Doctor Who Series 10, we're on episode 2 of that. It's doing okay. It feels like there has been a very concerted effort to move it back to the structure of the Russell T Davies era. We're only 2 episodes in, but the first episode feels a lot like Rose, the first episode of Christopher Eccleston's season.
Right.
And the second episode feels a lot like a lot of second episodes we had in that period. They go to a futuristic Earth colony, and it's all brightly colored, and And then episode 3 hasn't been on yet, but it's a trip to Victorian Britain.
Okay.
It feels a lot like it's trying to evoke that period. So I don't know. They've been pretty solid scripts so far. This week's episode felt a lot like. You remember The Empty Child and Girl in the Fireplace?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Technology gone wrong, killing people,
Right.
trying to fix things. It's that plot again. But
okay.
but the thing about that is, it's a good plot. Every time they do it well, it works. But it was pretty good. It's a good season so far. I hope it's gonna turn out okay. And other than that, my Rogue One Blu-ray finally arrived, so I watched that again.
Right. So speaking of Doctor Who, you were mentioning a little bit on Twitter stuff about like a possibility of a new Doctor.
Right.
And apparently you weren't happy with one of the rumored people.
Yeah, have you ever seen the film Love Actually?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Colin from Love Actually. That's supposed to be the next Doctor.
Huh.
Now, he's been in a show called Death in Paradise for a couple of years, and that's a show about a British police officer I think they're in Barbados? Could be wrong. And he's the second character to take off that, and people have said that he's kind of a little bit doctory in that, but to me it feels like an attempt to get someone like David Tennant without really understanding what people liked about David Tennant. You know what I mean? So they've got a relatively young person with brown hair. There we go. We got him, guys.
Honestly, at this point, do you think there'll ever be another Doctor as beloved as David Tennant?
I don't know, because, I like David Tennant. I don't know why people are so attached on him specifically. I like him a lot, but I don't get that myself. I don't get that affection.
I'm almost convinced that a good chunk of Jessica Jones ratings came because it was Doctor Who fans going, David Tennant's in a new thing?
Yeah. And funnily enough, his career hasn't been that amazing. I mean, he was in Broadchurch, which is quite popular. I mean, he's a good actor. He's genuinely a good actor.
I remember when he was attached to a TV show that was going to be in America that failed miserably. It never even got off the ground. I think they did a pilot, and that was it. But it was supposed to be called Rex is Your Lawyer or something like that.
I remember that
And yeah, the
vaguely.
premise was that he was this great lawyer who suddenly developed like extreme uh, stage fright.
Right.
Like he couldn't be in front of people anymore. Um, yeah, and that it just died on the vine.
He's interesting because his career is not amazing in that sense, but I think he's doing as well as he'd like to do. I guess the weird thing is he was in Doctor Who, and that was like this world famous show, but he himself is a mid-budget TV actor, which I don't mean that disparagingly, but that's what he seems to have fallen into, and that's what he was doing before, you know.
Well, what made me laugh is that I saw that clip where he received some achievement award, and I can't remember what group it was. I mean, it wasn't like the BAFTAs or anything like that. It was I don't remember, but they did, they did this thing where they kind of surprised him with it, where they're like, oh, and right now, we always take the time every year to honor a career of excellence and blah, 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 blah. And he started showing David Tennant clips. And, it washes over him where he's like, oh, my God, they're not honoring me. But I'm watching all these clips, and it's like from 3 different shows. They just keep on throwing, like, 3. Like, you can clearly see that there's just 3 shows, and they're showing multiple clips from those 3 shows. And everyone's all like, everyone's all cheering and having a good time. I'm like, that's not a lifetime of achievement.
It's such a mystery too,
3 shows.
Because I've never seen him bad in anything, really.
Right.
I thought he was pretty great in Jessica Jones.
I've always liked him.
Oh yeah, he's a good actor. When I said I don't know what the love with him for Doctor Who is, I just mean I don't know why he became so fixed in the role in people's minds, you know. Because I liked Christopher Eccleston. I could never understand why people acted like he massively changed the show when he replaced him, because I don't think he did. I think the show was as good before he arrived, and for a little bit as good afterwards, you know? But he's a good actor. He did a really great... Sorry, Karen.
I really liked Matt Smith. Sorry. I really liked Matt Smith.
Me too. I didn't really much like the writing under his tenure, but you can't blame him for that, you know?
Right.
Same with Peter Capaldi, who is a very... I just like the idea of playing the Doctor as just mean and not interested in your problems, but still the hero of the show.
I have not seen a single episode with Peter Capaldi.
It's worth watching. It's worth watching Series 8 just to watch a really, really, really feel bad series of Doctor Who.
Oh, nice.
It's strange, but it's really... You know how feel bad can be beautiful sometimes. It's
right.
It's interesting. It's because what you have in Series 8 of Doctor Who is a companion who gradually makes the decision to leave after slowly coming to the realization that she doesn't like the Doctor anymore. She doesn't feel like she trusts him. I mean, there's a scene where there's a really painful conversation she has with her partner where she comes to the realization that she's being defending him because she knew him as Matt Smith, but she can't even really trust who he is right now, you know? And it's a good series for that. And I liked it. I liked when you've got a show like Doctor Who where you can replace the protagonist like that, but keep him the same but different. I think exploring that with one Doctor is worth doing, you know?
Is there any other show that it's like that, though?
Well, exactly. That's what I mean. There's no other show where you could do that. So you might as well. I still want them to do... I still really want them to do a story where they recast the Doctor and be like, this is the Doctor now, and then by the end of the episode he's just dead again. Like, oh well, that
didn't work out.
That one didn't last, you know? And make a really big deal out of it to cover for the other person you've cast, you know? It'd just be interesting to have a Doctor who didn't make it to the end of the episode.
What I want to see... I know it'll never happen, or maybe it has already in some sort of way. I really want to see the unsophisticated Doctor. Like, I want him to regenerate wearing a soccer jersey, and you know what I mean? Where it's like,
I'd say the closest to that is the second Doctor, because the first Doctor was this old man who was prim and proper and dressed like an Edwardian, you know? When
Right.
the second Doctor regenerates, he regenerates into a younger, shorter, sloppier man who wears the first Doctor's clothes even though they don't fit. So he just dresses like Charlie Chaplin's little tramp, you know?
okay. But I want to see, I don't even know how to word this. Like, I want to see the beer drinking Doctor,
The lager lout.
Yeah.
The football hooligan. Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah. That's what I want to see, where I just want
Daleks,
like the Daleks show up.
Like,
Yeah. You're just like...
chin him.
Like the I want to see Vinnie Jones play the Doctor.
Oh, that'd be great. It'd be terrible, but it'd be great.
Like the Daleks show up to capture his companion or whatever, and he's just like, "Oi, them boys with me!"
Fucking no!
And he's like, just breaks a bottle over Dalek's head, Just,
Right. BB's World
what I
says his
wanna
name
see.
is Troughton, and then damn you got to it before me. Hello to BB. Yes, Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor. He's a sloppy Doctor. I always
But yeah,
liked the fourth Doctor. I mean, it's common to like Tom Baker, but I like the idea that after years of John Pertwee, who was very elegant, very, very elegant, and dapper and upper class, they just went, he should just have... When the fourth Doctor came in, they were like, he should just dress in a big coat and a really long scarf and a floppy hat and have really starey, weird eyes and say stupid stuff. This should be the Doctor now. He should basically seem like a homeless man who doesn't really know what you're talking about.
right.
Yeah, I like it when they take the Doctor in a weird direction. It's fun.
You know what? I know it would never happen, and it's not even like fiction-wise. I think there would probably just be like a national outcry. I would love to see a different nationality. Like,
Yeah, you could do it.
why is he, like, he always comes back British,
Right. And that's obviously partly due to the fact that the show is a British icon.
Right.
But we did pretty well to get a Scottish one, because Peter Capaldi is
Yeah.
obviously Scottish. That's been a nice change. One of my favorite things
And
about
then, what,
Capaldi's...
David Tennant's Irish, isn't he? Or
He's also Scottish, but he played him English.
yeah. Right.
Whereas Capaldi plays him Scottish. In fact, when he realizes he's Scottish and he's angry now, he's got this line where he says, "I'm cross. I can be properly cross." And then he says, "I don't know what I'm crossing out about, but I'm sure the English are to blame." Yeah, it's a good... No, I agree. I think it could be interesting. And you'd have to get the right American, but there are Americans who could do it. You know? I think...
I want to see the Kelsey Grammer.
God, no. Jeff Goldblum I'd like.
Yeah, I can see that.
When he was younger, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, maybe go like David Duchovny. He could be interesting.
Yeah, he'd be all right. When he was younger, he'd been for a David Tennant type Doctor as well. But as someone the age now, he'd be pretty good. The problem for me is, have you ever seen lists of who would be a good Doctor, and you look at them and you're like, no, these are all just really, really obvious but bad choices.
Oh, like Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, well, things like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind Tilda Swinton necessarily. They've been talking a lot about whether they're going to cast a woman as the Doctor. I don't know if they're going to do it because it sounds like the BBC's going to play it very safe. But I don't know. I wouldn't like any of the women they've suggested because I'd like someone like The problem
Why don't you just go nuts and cast it an American woman?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know, like Eliza Dushku or something,
the problem I think people have when they cast the Doctor is, because the show is funny and the role is funny, they try to cast comedians.
Right.
And that's wrong for it. You want a dramatic actor who can do funny stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. That's why I like Christopher Eccleston. I think he's one of my favorite Doctors. I think it's a real shame he only did a season. Yeah. Who would I like to see? I never really... For someone who loves Doctor Who, I never really know how to answer this question of which actors I'd like to see. I would like to see someone patently terrible do it. But do it well. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see them just cast Stallone. I would just really enjoy that. TARDIS. Time and mentioned in space. Sorry, that's more Christopher Walken, isn't it? To the TARDIS.
There we go. Christopher Walken as the Doctor.
But Christopher Walken from the Deer Hunter. Not like
no,
Christopher Walken
from the Fatboy Slim video.
Well, I think that just is the Doctor, right?
You can get with this, or you
but
can
it's
get
like
with that.
Since Sherlock started, every year they've talked about who'd be a good actor to be the Doctor. Cumberbatch has been on that list. And I don't think he'd be a good actor to be the Doctor. He's a good actor for Sherlock Holmes. They're not the same person. You know? Mind you, he was interesting in Doctor Strange, but that's not a character like the Doctor either, is it, you know?
Man, I never, ever got Sherlock, you know? Like, I understand it's a good show.
Right.
But I don't even know where I'm going with that.
I like its first season. I think it fell into the Moffat problem after that of writing for the most invested fans. Which I think shows have a tendency to do now. They write for the internet audience.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of a good way to say it for me. Is one of my issues I got with Doctor Who, and they did that. They did it through David Tennant's run, and they did it with Matt Smith too. But they take a single aspect of the character, and they just double down.
Right.
And I feel like they did that with Sherlock too, where you had Cumberbatch who played Sherlock as kind of like a disdainful character. You know, doesn't like anyone else, oddly enough, except for Watson. He gets along with Watson for some reason, but you know the rest of humanity he can give a fuck about.
Right.
And it just annoys me because I can't sit there and watch that for so long before I just start getting really fucking annoyed.
Right, like the path to go with that would have been to make him warmer, but they didn't. They made him crueler, but then tried to put these moments of warmth in. Yeah, no, I agree. I know. The issue I have with... Because if you'd started him off like that and made him someone who progressively became warmer, there'd be a narrative there, you know?
Right.
I feel the same way about Matt Smith, because what I think you got there with Matt Smith was his first season, he's getting David Tennant scripts, right? Because how else do you do it, you know? He's getting the scripts that were intended for David Tennant. And David Tennant was a very general, all-round sort of Doctor, you know what I mean? He was very typical. I think that's why people like him. And so, when you look at the scripts he's getting very sort of generic doctor-y dialogue, and then he's putting his personality into that role. And his personality, Matt Smith, he's kind of a weird guy. you know? He brings an oddball physicality to it, and that's great. And then every season after that, you have writers writing for the oddball actor, and the oddball actor adding more oddballness in. and it just becomes cartoonish.
There was one moment with the Dr. Smith doctor that I thought should have been a super, like, role-defining moment for the Doctor,
Right.
as Matt Smith. And it was the episode when a good man goes to war.
Yeah.
Because there's a moment right at the beginning where, you know, they're doing this, like, lullaby thing, and, you know, you get the idea that they're talking about the Doctor, but then it's revealed that they're actually talking about Rory.
Right.
But there's still a moment in that where the Doctor shows up and he confronts the Cyberman where he's like, I know you guys didn't take her, but I know you guys know where she is. Tell me where they took the girl. And they don't tell her, and he blows up their fucking fleet. Like, without a thought, the entirety of their, like, the Cyberman fleet just gets incinerated. And you don't know how he did it. He just did it. And it was a level of violence, but also directness that I don't think you've ever really... I had never seen from the Doctor. You know, he didn't willy about it, and he didn't waver, and he didn't kind of bumble onto a solution, and then at the last second, like, oh no, I'm actually the most competent person here, I was just pretending to be an idiot. No, it was just this moment where he's like, no, I need something from you. If you don't, I will destroy everything.
Right.
And he does
because
it.
the stakes are so high.
Right. And I loved it. I loved that moment, and I feel like it never came again. There was
Right,
never
and
another moment like that.
The rest of that episode, he's all goofy. You know, he pops out of the monk's hood, and he has that whole speech where he's like, "No, don't say retreat, say run away." And yeah, it's like, I'd say another moment I like. One of my favorite episodes, Human Nature, which is the David Tennant episode where he hides from the hostile aliens by making himself human, and they go to that school in World War One.
Right.
Great episode. Probably one of the best David Tennant episodes. Probably one of the best Doctor Who episodes ever written. Mm-hmm. And they go through this whole rigmarole of they want the power that you get if you kill a Time Lord, basically. They feed on people. Right. They want his life force, and they can smell him, basically, as long as he's a Time Lord. But if he changes to a human, there's a chance they won't smell him. And if they can just wait until... They can just wait for the enemies to die, basically. They don't have long to live.
Right.
And it's great. It's a really great episode. But then when it comes to the whole ending, and the Doctor defeats them, and he gets his memories back, and it all comes together, there is like a defining moment like that for David Tennant when they just say, and that's when we realized he wasn't hiding because he was scared of us. He was hiding to be kind. And what follows is a montage of the Doctor with no fuss and no comedy, because he's gone through hideous things in this episode.
Yeah.
Just one by one taking these aliens and subjecting them to the worst punishments to prevent them from trying it. And keeping them alive forever in the process. Yeah,
it's he would have been nicer to kill them.
Right.
And it's...
Yeah, and you see moments like that.
I love that bit, actually.
Yeah, it's the moment where you... I mean, it's such an interesting episode, Human Nature, because what's so great about it is, on the surface, it's like, hey, look, the Doctor's pretending to be a human. Isn't that funny? And the message you get at the end of that story is, the Doctor isn't human and doesn't understand how humans think at all.
Right.
And could never be.
And that's one... Those are always kind of my favorite episodes, too, where it's... Can you say that the Doctor is a heroic character? Sure. But I like it when they play him as he's not a hero. He's just a person at the moment that we need it, you know?
Right. That's why I think you'd like Capaldi's Doctor, actually. It plays with that idea a lot. Because what you have here is a Doctor who, he's solving the problems and he's saving the day, but he doesn't like people and he doesn't much care about being liked. And that's interesting. It's an interesting way to play. Interesting things, I think.
I feel like you got that said. But the other one that I remember maybe crossing that line and kind of a bad person is I can't remember how the episode. No, I do remember. Because I think it might be the first David Tennant episode, where he convinces the aliens to flee. He beats them in like a sword fight.
Yeah, it's the Christmas special, Christmas Invasion.
Yeah, and he convinces them to leave, and he convinces them to leave, and then the Prime Minister blows them up as they're escaping.
Yeah.
And he turns around and basically ends her career by, like, one sentence.
Brings down the government.
Yeah. And it's that sort of thing that I've always liked about Doctor Who, was that moment where it's like, oh, you wanted to act on your own? Fine. Here's the consequence.
Yeah, he's not humanity's friend.
Right.
I do love the moments where they play up how alien he is. One of my favorite examples, it's a real subtle example actually, but it's series 1, Christopher Eccleston and Rose, and it's the episode where she tells him how her father died, and that her dad was in a hit and run and he died alone, and she says, "Can you take me back? And I just want to be there when he dies, and so he doesn't have to die alone, so someone can be with him." And the Doctor doesn't understand why this is a terrible idea. And he takes her. And you can see that he doesn't get it. Mm-hmm. And that episode...
He even takes her to the wedding.
Right. And he can't see, while this is unfolding, he can't actually see that this is having psychological effects immediately on her.
I mean, it's funny because I think everyone in the audience saw what was coming.
Right, and he doesn't.
Everyone knew it was coming.
Well, the subversion they put in is, the first time he takes her, she doesn't do it. She runs away. She chickens out. Mm-hmm. So they go there twice. And then he specifically says later on that because they were there twice, it was a really, really bad time to do that. That's probably one of my favorite Eccleston episodes. Both he and Billie Piper really act they just give the best performances of that season in that episode, I think.
Yeah. No, those are great episodes. I think the other ones I really like are the ones where I don't like when the Doctor plays modest, I guess.
Right.
I really enjoy the episodes where he finally just goes, you know what, I'm the Doctor. I've had, I mean, for us, decades worth of adventures, and I've thwarted these aliens countless times. But, they suggest often in the mythos that, he's been doing this for hundreds of years. So there's hundreds of years worth of him slapping around the Daleks and beating the shit out of the Cybermen and all this sort of stuff. And so when he finally just admits to it, like, I like those moments.
I even like it when it's a bad idea, like Waters of Mars, when all the way through he's like, I'm not allowed to do anything. I'm not allowed to help. And then right at the end he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll help.
Yeah. And he's real cocky about it, too. He's like, oh, I'm in the game now.
Yeah.
And it still goes bad.
Right. Like, he causes a suicide. It's such a good episode. I mean, I like Waters of Mars anyway. I think it's just a very good, very well-written episode. But it's such an interesting look at the Doctor getting too much power, you know. Well, I mean, at why he restrains himself, you know.
Right, because they do it. They do it 2 times. I remember. It's almost the same. It's almost the same exact beat. They do it with David Tennant, where he tells. I think it was his first episode again, where he tells them to look up the Doctor, just look through the history.
I think that's Matt Smith's first episode. Oh no, wait, it might be because Matt Smith does that as well.
Yeah, they do it twice. And they do it almost the same way, where you see like the holograms of the different Doctors. And because I remember David Tennant actually just walks through the hologram.
That's Matt Smith. That's the Matt Smith.
Is that
one.
Matt Smith?
It is, yeah. Where he's facing that big eye.
Yeah, that's right. But then David Tennant did it too.
David Tennant does it in the Christmas one. He finds that info stamp, which has made Jackson Lake believe he's the Doctor. That's a good episode. It is weird, like most shows they don't pull it off, but Doctor Who's one of those shows where episodes about the Doctor are actually pretty good.
Yeah, but there's also that one really great, I think it's a great episode. It plays off a little goofy. I think the resolution doesn't come off great. But the Pandorica opens.
Right.
I think that's a great moment where, you know, the Doctor has no idea what the hell this thing is, but since, you know, the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Solarians, or not the Solarians,
Silurians.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. But they all showed up, so he thinks it's something really big. And he has that moment where he gets on the bullhorn where he's like, you know, basically, come and get me, you sons of bitches.
Right.
And then it realized, like, no, that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted you down there because it's your prison. You know?
And the whole episode is priming you to think that when they open the box, the Doctor's going to be inside. Mm-hmm. Like, you think that's where it's going, right? You know?
Yeah.
Like, the second part of that, the resolution in that second episode is nowhere near as good. But the part 1 is almost perfect.
Right,
and the way
when it opens up and it's Amy,
right,
and it's like, how the fuck did that happen? And then they try to explain how it happened. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's the way in part 1. They're like, no, you destroyed the universe, and he's like, what? The TARDIS blows up and it destroys the universe, and he's like, but I'm not in the TARDIS. Well, we need to find out what happened. And they're like, nope, we all know only the Doctor can fly the TARDIS. Therefore, you're responsible. In you go.
Yeah.
No, it's a really great episode. We have a question. Beebyswell says, do you think Clara might have been a wasted companion to Capaldi? I haven't seen much of Capaldi yet, but I never really liked Clara much. I don't know how much Clara you've seen.
None.
Well, Clara was introduced in the Matt Smith era, and raised the ire of people. I will say right off the bat, the actress that plays her, Jenna Coleman, I think is a fine actress. But she was given a difficult task because the way this worked was the Doctor meets Clara twice in 2 different time periods as 2 different people with the same name. And then he meets her a 3rd time and she becomes the companion. But there's this running question of, and both times he meets her the first 2 times, she dies. And so there's the question of how he's met this person 3 times, and she's looked the same, and she sounded the same, she's had the same personality and the same name, but she's been a different person. Do you know what I mean? Like, he meets her in Victorian England, and she is a governess in Victorian England. He meets her in a stranded spaceship in the future, and she is someone on a stranded spaceship in the future. But he keeps meeting her. And so the story of her in her first season is... what is going on here? You know, what... And so the problem with Clara is... And I do agree she was wasted. The problem is, in her first season, she was a puzzle, not a character. And in the season after that, it wasn't a very good season, and they struggled to find a place for her. She's okay in the anniversary, the 50th anniversary special, but
I did see her there. Okay.
but that could have been any companion in that role, you know?
Right.
Just because of the nature of that story. It's not a very companion-heavy story.
Right, and to be fair, Billie Piper's appearance kind of overshadowed any other
Right.
companions that would have been there.
But that could have been Rose, could have been Martha, could have been Donna, could have been... You know, nobody... Any companion could have slotted into that role and done it as well. So it's not a... You can't judge Clara on it, I guess.
Now, there's a wasted companion.
I think so.
Martha.
Martha.
Martha, I think, was always a wasted companion.
I liked Martha. I think my issue with Martha is I feel like they undermined her because there was a belief that people really loved the relationship between David Tennant and Rose, and I didn't really care for it. And so all the way through when they should have been establishing Martha, they were always writing about how much the Doctor missed Rose. And how do you set up a character in that situation?
I know I've said it before, but those first three companions of the new series, Rose, Martha, and then Donna, all fill a very specific role.
Yeah.
For me, because I mean, I don't know if it was meant to be this way, but I almost feel like from Eccleston to the end of Tennant, we're all kind of telling the same story.
Right.
Almost like a saga, like a trilogy almost.
Right, like if you look at even things like Eccleston regenerating, I don't think it was planned, but it serves a very useful purpose in reintroducing that concept to the audience and getting a companion like Rose who's young and working class and yeah, no, you carry on saying what you say, but I know what you mean. But keep explaining.
So, like I almost feel like as soon as Matt Smith comes in, it's like, okay, they knew.
Definitely.
But those first four seasons, with Eccleston and then David Tennant, are all very tied together. I mean, even to the point where, like, how David Tennant's run ends with the Master, you know? I feel like he was kind of a character that was sort of like a running nemesis to the whole thing, even if you didn't realize it was him.
He's coming back, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Because the Master's been back for some time, but we didn't see a John Sim regeneration. And John Sim's going to be in it again, so it looks like we're going to find out what happened there, or meet Masters out of order, which has never happened before. Because when you're casting the show, how do you do that? You know, 9 times out of 10 when they recast the Master, it's been because the actor died.
Yeah. So, for me, like I said, this might have just been my way of rationalizing it, but I feel like you can even look through the episodes and see this play out. Those first three companions, Rose, Martha, and then Donna, kind of come off as Rose was, even though there was nothing physical, there's very much this idea of love.
Definitely.
Right? So I always kind of call her like the Doctor's lover, even though there's no sex. Now, if you look at with Donna, all those episodes are very much about friendship. She's above all else the companion who gives him the most shit.
There was never an attempt at a romantic relationship.
Right. And
I love Donna, by the way.
Oh yeah, Donna's great. But if you think about it, the stuff they do, and even to a point where you see where they end up in that last season, or that last bit with David Tennant, where he goes through time and sees where these people have ended up.
Mm-hmm.
Martha very much comes off as like the Doctor's soldier.
I can see that.
The stuff that
I can see that.
What's that?
No, I am saying I can see that.
Okay, because like the stuff that she does compared to the other companions is by far way more severe. And,
Yeah. And she rescues him quite a lot.
yeah, like, because, like, you know, like you said, the whole human nature episode, she's there, and she basically, she has to become a servant to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
And then the whole bit, you know, where the master comes back and takes over the world, she literally has to go into hiding, form a resistance, travel the world, you know, spreading the name of the Doctor around like he's some Jesus character.
Oh, that's such a good episode as well.
Yeah. And then in the final moment, by sheer, like, I mean, they explain it somehow, but everyone thinking of the Doctor gives him his power back.
Yeah, it's not the best ending, but
Yeah.
no, I agree. And they specifically point this out in the episode where Martha comes back in series 4 when she's working for Unit. I mean, she spends a lot of time in that episode as a clone, but Donna specifically says, you know, you turned her into a soldier, you know?
Yeah.
I do have one issue with Martha, and it's, you were saying that episode where the Doctor goes back and looks at all his other companions. We see Martha and Mickey meet once.
Yeah.
Is the only reason they got married because they're the only two black people on the show? Because that's a little weird.
It almost feels like that. That's kind of what they did. And I was like, come on, guys. Like,
It's kind of strange. BB's World says, I feel like Donna is the best New Age companion so far. She also said, I feel like Martha was supposed to appear on Torchwood. Martha's in 3 episodes of Torchwood, and they're pretty good episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, Torchwood's a very hit-and-miss show, but her episodes are mostly hits, I would say.
You and I actually got into a huge argument one time over Torchwood.
Did we? What was the position?
My position was, it was specifically one episode, where they go back in time to the, concert for, the soldiers going off to World War II.
Right, it's the episode where you find out that Jack stole his identity from...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was the most ridiculous plot development for him to fall in love with him.
I suppose. I guess I didn't read it like that. I saw it as more of a gratitude sexual attraction. I stole your name. Torchwood's a funny show like that, though. I guess.
Yeah, I've always kind of had issues with Torchwood's use of sex.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, because it's one thing to have sex in your show. It's a whole nother to have it play such... I mean, it doesn't even play big plot points. It always feels so tacked on to me.
Sex plays a much, much, much bigger part in Torchwood than you would expect it to.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Sometimes it is kind of funny. It's a really early episode where there's the gas alien that needs to eat people's orgasms and kills them in the process. And then there's the one, the lesbian with the necklace. Do you remember that one? The mind control necklace.
Yes, okay.
My favorite episode of Torchwood, I think, Series 1, there's an episode where a plane from the 1950s accidentally comes through to the present day.
Yes, that's actually my favorite episode, too.
Yeah, it's a really good episode about how these people who don't fit in learn to fit in. There's a beautiful scene where the guy finds out that his son's still alive, but he has Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm. But that also has a weird sex moment in it, doesn't it?
Well, I think the character played by Owen, played by Bern Gorman, falls in love with
Yeah.
The pilot.
The daughter.
I think he falls in love with
pilot? Yeah, it's the pilot.
And
because she takes off at the end.
right, and Jack helps the guy commit suicide, if I remember rightly. That's a good one. Did you ever watch Children of Earth? I don't know if you ended up seeing that.
No, I got real sick of Torchwood and just gave it up.
I would recommend trying Children of Earth because it's even if you've never seen any other Torchwood. I mean, you need a little foundational Torchwood to get into it, but it's so good. It originally aired 5 episodes over 5 nights, and the show takes place over a week, basically. A real life week, and it's about it's essentially, without giving too much away, it's because I really do recommend you watch it. It's about a cover up. What happens when the alien encounter that you covered up 30 years ago? What happens when the aliens come back and you can't admit that you've met them before? Because you did something really bad last time, so the government can't admit, oh, we know who these guys are. Oh, they're back and they want more. They want more of our stuff. Oh, we don't know who these are. That's basically the premise. It gets more complicated than that, but that's what happens when the government can't admit that they know who the aliens are, basically. And it's really good. It's really, really good. Miracle Day's okay.
I know that there's a few characters from Torchwood that it was one of the reasons why I had to stop. Is those characters are just not likable characters. They're just not.
See,
like Jack. Jack, I think, was the most likable character, and even then, wasn't that likable?
That was one of the things I kind of liked about Doctor Who. Not Doctor Who, about Torchwood. I liked that they were just messed up, miserable people, and for me, I could totally see someone not liking them. For me, they came full circle. They were so messed up and so miserable. They became likable again for me, but I could understand why that wouldn't work for someone, you know.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, I mean, you can have unlikable characters, but there always has to be some sort of like redeeming quality. Like you look at like Breaking Bad. Walter White, terrible person, terrible character, but he does have some sort of like redeeming quality where every once in a while,
right,
he does something.
Well, there's other things like his pride in his work is a likable quality, even though it actually ultimately drives him to most of his evil. It's something that you share with, you know. No, I agree, but
I just didn't see that in any
I suppose
the Torchwood characters.
The theme about Torchwood ultimately was that doing that job separated you from humanity in a damaging way. That was the ultimate message. Did you ever see the episode with the guy who wrote himself into people's memories?
No.
It's a really good one.
It's been a very long time since I've watched Torchwood.
It's a really interesting one because it deals very much with Gwen's relationship with her husband. But it's clever because Gwen comes to work one day and sees that there's this guy in the office that everyone else is acting like he's been there all the time and she doesn't know who it is. And then he touches her and the memories get added to her as well, you know? But unfortunately the memories of her husband get wiped at the same time. The funniest thing about that episode is actually that they edited that actor into the opening montage they do. So it would look like he was. It was a nice touch, but no, I totally. The thing about Torture for me is I love the show, but I love it despite being aware that it is a deeply, deeply flawed show.
I think the character who I think I just could have done without altogether. Because I mean, I guess you're right. Every character kind of has moments. But there's one character in particular that It's like, why are you here? Is Yanto. I hated that guy. Hated him with a passion. Like, every time he showed up, I was like, you fucking naggy little nitwit, shut the fuck up. No one cares about your fucking watch. No one cares.
Then you should definitely watch Miracle Day. Sorry, Children of Earth.
Because he dies? Did he die?
I will say nothing.
He dies, right? No, that means he died. Yes. I will watch it to watch that fucker die. I hope it's because of a watch. I don't
remember him saying anything
something
about
down. I hope that's what it is.
I will tell you, though, do you know what the worst episode of Torchwood is? It's the one episode where they really tried to cross over with Doctor Who, and it's the one where Yanto's girlfriend's a Cyberman in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
It's so bad. And like, nobody knows that he's been keeping her down there.
And that was another thing about Torchwood, is the whole, like, sexual identity thing. Because you see it with Yanto, especially, because he had the girlfriend, right? And wasn't it like Martha's sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then by the end of that fucking show, he's like, "Oh, I'm basically gonna fuck Jack every chance I can."
I think the idea was that you don't have to be gay to want to fuck Jack.
And I was like, okay, it doesn't bother me for gay characters or even bisexual characters, but it felt like they threw so much on just to get scenes of, like, guys kissing Jack. Yeah, it was such a weird thing, because, like, okay, going back to that episode where he meets the guy he stole the identity from. And this was the problem I had, and I always try to be real gentle with it, because you can easily come off as being very homophobic when you take the stance. But there's no way that character's gay, right? Or that willing to be gay. Look, it's 1940s England, which is notorious for being very homophobic. I mean, in America too. But you know, they chemically castrated the guy who, you know, broke the Enigma machine.
Right.
You know, and he's there and he's with these girls, and for all intents and purposes, when he shows up, he's in complete infatuation with them, or her, I should say. You know, they're together.
No, I see what you're saying. Even if that character is gay, kissing Captain Jack in the middle of the dance hall would have got him a gross indecency charge.
Yeah. Like, kissing him there possibly keeps him from going to war.
Right.
Instead, he's in a stockade, you know?
That's probably why he did it. He was like, I found a way out, boys!
Who's with me?
And they're like, not again. This is the excuse you used last time and you didn't tell the cops.
You just let it happen.
No, I agree, but I also think a little artistic license for the meaning of the show, I suppose. But
I guess.
I don't know. I don't have a problem
with
with
the next episode and, like, Jack's, you know, ready to fuck someone new. You kind of ruin your artistic license. You know.
That's fair.
Well, we talked about Doctor Who way further than I thought we would.
Yeah, it's because Doctor Who is one of those shows where when you're invested in the conversation and there are good episodes, it's one of those shows that there's a lot of interesting things to talk about, you know? It's like I'm watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine with Beth at the moment.
Sorry, BB. Yanto sucks.
I'm watching I'm watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine with Beth at the moment. And I love Deep Space Nine, right? But I keep having to say, like, trust me, Series 2, it gets better once they stop writing fucking Star Trek episodes.
Well, and that's what I have to tell people about Arrow, too. Like...
I can believe that.
Like, season 2 and 3 of Arrow are legitimately really good.
Do I have to?
Season 1's fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, season 1 of Deep Space Nine is not bad. It's just that every episode is something that they could have done on Next Gen, but on Bajor, or just on the other side of the wormhole, and in a space station, not a spaceship. You know? And it's not good Next Gen either. Season 1 of Deep Space Nine is genuinely really quite a weak season. It's even season 2 before they start the political plot with, like, the elections on Bajor and the spiritual leader and stuff like that.
And the coming Dominion War stuff. And...
Right, that starts... That Dominion first gets properly introduced in the final episode of season 2. There's one episode I really do like in season 1, and it's an episode called Dax.
Yep.
And it's the episode where someone comes aboard the station and tries to extradite Dax on the grounds that 30 years earlier, the host before Jadzia committed a crime on their world that deserves the death penalty. And they hold an extradition treaty, the purpose of which is to demonstrate that the new host of a symbiont can't be held totally accountable for the previous host's crimes. And it's all about establishing what that actually means to be a Trill. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much all exposition, but in a really good way. Which cult scenes are really good for, I suppose. But I like that one a lot.
It's like the same episode from Next Gen, though, where Wesley and his is in Academy, and him and his buddies perform a maneuver that gets someone killed.
I suppose that's true. Yeah. Who's the same actor who played Tom Paris in his buddy? It's the same actor who played Tom Paris in Voyager, but when they did Voyager, they made it a different character. But he was supposed to be the same character.
Dumb.
And you're like, why not just... What? Why not just do that? Because at the beginning of Voyager, he's in prison, that character. Tom Paris. Mm-hmm. Why not just make it the same character? Say he's in prison for that. You know?
Right.
I don't know why they didn't do it.
So have you looked into it all? Like, what's this new Star Trek's going to be like? Was it Discovery?
Well, I know that Brian Fuller conceived it, but that he's not working on it anymore. Which I don't know if that's worrying or not, because Brian Fuller's been kicked off a lot of shows I've liked. He wrote the first 3 episodes of Dead Like Me and then was just gone, you know?
Right.
But I like Dead Like Me. But Brian Fuller, people don't realize, because he went on to do, Dead Like Me, Pushing Daisies, Hannibal, all that stuff. Brian Fuller worked on Voyager, and I believe Deep Space Nine. I could be wrong. So he worked on, and Next Generation, in fact, I've just looked up. He worked on Star Trek when Star Trek was on TV last, right? Which I guess is a good sign. And the other thing is that
Did he
apparently...
work on Enterprise?
Sorry? What?
He worked on Enterprise?
I don't think he worked on Enterprise. I think he'd moved on to his...
last time Star Trek was on TV?
Yeah, pretty much. So, I think he'd started moving on to his own, non-Star Trek projects by then. Plus, Enterprise, if you look at it, there were a lot of people who weren't really happy with it internally, with where it was going. Mm-hmm. So that could be a good sign. And the other thing that's interesting is, apparently the Star Trek movie... I found this very interesting. Apparently the Star Trek movie licenses and the Star Trek film licenses are totally separate licenses. So
yeah,
the fact that one company is working on those movies, which I guess is why Next Gen ran alongside the movies for so long as well.
Yeah, because the movie license is Paramount and CBS, I want to say.
I guess.
Has the
Yeah.
TV.
So apparently, there wasn't even. I always assumed that while those movies were running, there'd be no TV shows as kind of like a courtesy thing or a non-competition thing. Apparently, that's not the case, and that the TV show can't even technically exist in that Abrams universe without some element of collaboration coming through. Mm-hmm. So the Discovery series is not going to be in that rebooted timeline. Mm-hmm. It's going to be in the original timeline, which is interesting. It's being set up by somebody who was involved with Star Trek in kind of the era I like, the Deep Space Nine Voyager era. And it's set 10 years before the original Star Trek series, which I think is a mistake. I think the reason they've done that is because the Abrams movies are basically set in that time period.
I thought it was a dual timeline thing.
Maybe. Could be. I don't know.
Because that was one of the talks, is that there's actually... It's going to focus around 2 captains.
Interesting.
And I think one of them, for those of you who watch Walking Dead, it was the woman who plays Sasha. I
know there is a female captain. Oh, also, I know that someone who's doing a lot of consulting on it is actually Nicholas Meyer. He's producing, and he's a producer and a consultant on it. Nicholas Meyer directed Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 6.
Oh, that's...
Also known as the 2 best Star Trek movies.
Right. Hey, I like Voyage Home.
You, sir, are a fool.
Or The Journey Home. Or
there be whales here.
That's a good movie. Fuck you. I'll fight you.
Yeah.
Double dumbass on you.
So the interesting thing is they're like, well, we're casting a woman as captain. Great. But the main character is going to be the first officer, who's not a woman. So I thought that was funny. Like, they were like, we cast a woman as captain of the ship. Oh, that's interesting. Main character is the first officer. White guy. I don't know if he is white, but you know what I mean? It's just the way it played out was amusing. Oh, hang on. No, hello. No, I'm looking at the wrong information here. No, it looks like the first officer is still the protagonist. It looks like they've switched the characters around a little bit from the last time I read it. Although it is interesting that Sonequa Martin Green is playing a character called Michael Burnham. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I see that. I see that now.
But fair enough. So, from what I understand, this is something I've heard too.
I want to talk about that, though. About her, specifically.
Oh, sure.
Because, here's the thing. I have not really paid attention to Walking Dead since Season 2.
Okay.
Season 2
I have
really
never seen
killed
it
for me. Because, okay, so Season 1 is interesting because it's very much about this group of characters who move about, and they're on the run from walkers and
yeah. I've read the comic, so I believe that Season 1 is when the story was closest to the comic, right?
Right, and they end up at the CDC in Atlanta and all this sort of stuff. And it's a really... I like Season 1. And then Season 2 does this thing where, I get it, it's only the second season, they have no idea of really, I mean, they had a lot of success with Season 1, but they had no idea that what they had on their hands, right? It's yet to become the cultural phenomenon that it eventually becomes. Right? So they do this thing where the whole second season, instead of having them moving from place to place, they go, no, we're going to lock it down.
I love that you said that. Farm. No, we're not moving.
and that's pretty much what it comes down to.
Come on, survivors. Coochie coo. No, don't wanna. Come on.
But
the zombies are coming in. They're putting like little cat treats. Come on. coochie coo. Nah. Not coming out. Wouldn't you do that, though, if you were surviving?
Sure, yeah. And that's fine. All right?
Yeah,
in a realistic...
That's fine.
in a realistic situation, yes. Okay? That's what you'd probably do. But this is a television show, all right? And so the entire second season takes place on this farm. And it really gets to a point where it's clear that they have absolutely run out of ideas of what to do on this farm.
BB's World says season 2 was far too slow.
Yeah, it is just, and it's mind-numbingly slow. But so they move, and eventually they move on. All right, and I stopped paying attention. But you know, in the world I exist in, I'm surrounded by people who love the show. So I've been able to kind of keep tabs on the show just by other people's conversation.
Makes sense.
And then this last season that they had, where it starts out with that big moment where it was on all the fucking talk shows of who's going to get hit with the bat and all this stuff. And I kind of started paying more attention because it was more interesting. It was finally more interesting because it was this situation where...
I bet you've been watching it the whole time.
It was this one group of survivors, and they call themselves the Saviors, and they've essentially established like a totalitarian regime over this area. And there's all these other outposts. There's one where they call themselves the Kingdom, and then there's this town called the Alexandria Safe Zone, and another one called the Hilltop. Right, those are three places, and the Saviors essentially are extorting everyone for food and stuff like that. And the whole season plays out of them trying to covertly garner support for like a revolution.
As you do.
And but one of the characters that really starts to stand out, though, is this Sasha character. Who, to be honest, I didn't know a ton about her beforehand, but she very much is this character where everyone else is kind of like, well, let's just bide our time, and we'll suck it up. And she's like, no, what the fuck's wrong with you? We just spent, all this time, fucking running from zombies, surviving the best we can, and now we're gonna let this fucktard with a leather jacket ruin our day? No, come on.
Come on.
Everyone,
hey,
it's pretty much how she is. And so spoilers. I catch the season finale. All right, I happen to be at a bar and they're playing it on TV. I'm like, all right, I'll sit here and watch it. And I have to say, it was a really, really cool episode. All right. Because the premise is the episode before, the Sasha character actually gets captured. She gets captured by the Saviors, and the idea is they are going to use her as a bargaining chip, or not as a bargaining chip, as like a hostage, because they've figured out that this revolution is on the way. So to keep people from attacking him outright, they have her, and it's like, oh, you're gonna try to kill us. Well, we have your friend. We have a friend. If you try to kill us, we'll kill her. Right. So half the episode is showing all these events playing out, and the other half is just the Sasha character, and they have her in a coffin. It's supposed to be like this. The leader of the Saviors is Negan, and he's a very dramatic kind of guy, and he likes to do these like really sick jokes sort of thing. So, and part of the joke was that he put her in a coffin, right?
Hilarious.
And, yeah, well, he's a fucked up guy. But the episode is like her in her own like fantasies, like, cause she's like, she's trapped in the box, and she's basically dreaming and hallucinating to kind of cope with where she's at. And they do this really kind of cool thing, right? Where she's in the box, and it's all very character-driven, and she's coming to terms with, her predicament. And they do one brief flashback where there's a guy who started out as being they're the good guy's friends, but he's turncoat a little bit. And as they're putting her into a box, he says something to her, and he slips something to her. And you don't really see what he slipped to her, and you're led to believe that it's this iPod, because she's listening to an iPod the whole time. And it's all these songs, and all these songs are bringing up these memories, stuff to her. And you're like, oh, okay, well, he gave her this thing to kind of make her time more comfortable. But what it actually is, he slipped her this pill that just straight up killed her. And she knows it, because at a certain point she just takes a deep breath, takes the pill, drinks the water, and then they switch back to the current time, and the bad guy Negan opens up the thing ha, I got your friend, and all of a sudden it's just a fucking zombie. It's just her as a zombie. He's like, fuck! He freaks out. And it's a really cool moment. And it was, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I think I kind of get why people really like this show. And seeing her performance in that, I'm like, you know what? I think she's going to be really good in Star Trek.
Do you think she's going to do it as a zombie the whole time? So,
yeah.
So, First Officer, Michael, what do you think?
First episode is her in a box, and then they open it up and she's just a Borg.
Beam up the new First Officer. So yeah, well, I think it'll be good. I like Star Trek, and I don't love those Star Trek reboot films. I don't hate them. Well, I hate Into Darkness because it has a stupid title and it's a stupid film. But I liked the first one, and I liked Beyond quite a bit, actually. You seen Beyond? I have
not seen Beyond yet. I still have not seen Beyond.
Beyond has a really good plot. And you know what's really good about it? I'm not going to go into too much...
Simon Pegg.
Well, he's pretty good in it.
No, he wrote...
He did. They put that stupid Beastie Boys song in again, but in a way that it wasn't stupid, which was good.
I love that song.
Oh, I don't mind the song. I don't want it in my Star Trek movie. But but they did a good job with it. But without getting into too much detail, the problems in this movie for Starfleet are caused by people left behind by the transition to a peaceful and equitable human society. And that's an interesting idea that we've never explored in Star Trek before. And it is quite interesting. I mean, it's real. I don't want to spoil it, but at the same time, it's really, really predictable who the villain is. It's one of those things where you're like, who is this mysterious man? What is his motivation and his purpose? And for the first 5 minutes, you're like, it's gonna be this person. I know why he's doing. It's like, have you seen the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes movie?
Yes.
It's that.
I actually saw it in this theater.
What?
I actually saw that in the theater.
You bad man.
I didn't know it was going to be bad when I saw it.
I bought that on DVD. It was one of the first DVDs I ever bought. Because I love the original Planet of the Apes, and I love Tim Burton, and I didn't read movie reviews at the time.
I can't stand Tim Burton.
And the back of that, I used to be very, very fond of Tim Burton. I'm not so much anymore. And this film is a big part of why. And the back of the DVD said, an amazing new remake from Tim Burton with a twist ending that rivals the original. And I watched it, and I was like, Wait, where? Because the thing about that movie, it doesn't even have a twist ending.
No, it just has an ending that makes no sense.
The film comes to an end with the fact, oh, it's the spaceship and we're actually in the future. That's I guess that's the spaceship went through the planet and it landed in the past. That's kind of a twist ending. But then when they do that thing, like Tim Burton himself admits, that was just supposed to be a joke. Like,
right.
And you're like, but you put it in your serious movie that was supposed to have a serious plot without stupid surreal jokes. Do you not understand this? Like, it's basic context, you know? Like, it would honestly be like if at that moment Freddy Krueger had wandered in and stabbed Mark Wahlberg, and he was like, that was just supposed to be a gag. You know, it was just like really graphic violence from a totally different genre. And he just went, it was just supposed to be like a scare, like a horror movie scare. And we're like, but you weren't making a horror movie. Was the...
Like, they might as well just had, like, at the very end, just Jay and Silent Bob standing there, you know?
Right. It's... Like, I can't even begin to try and figure out that ending.
No. It has no meaning. It's just...
And you know what's sad? You know what's really, really sad? The original Planet of the Apes film is a really good film. And that remake doesn't even try and copy it. Like, normally when you see remakes, they're like, oh, they just copy it. And then... But with Tim Burton, he just went, well, they've said, will you make a Planet of the Apes movie? And I couldn't beat Planet of the Apes, so I just won't even try and make a good film. Right, like he just went, people are gonna hate it whatever I do, why don't I just really try and earn it?
I mean, I guess at a certain point that's kind of admirable.
My favorite bit is Tim Roth. And they were like, hey Tim, you want to wear a load of chimp makeup and just overact like you've never been to acting school, Tim. Just do it. You've got to come through the makeup. And then afterwards, you're like... And then at some point they went, and no one will know it's you, Tim, because you're going to be in makeup. And the whole way through the film, whenever he's on screen, you're like, oh look, it's Tim Roth acting like a dickhead. You know?
He just shows up at Tim Burton's house. You promised! You promised! They wouldn't know.
Easy, chimp.
Tim! Okay.
Calm down, Bubbles.
Timmy Chimp.
I didn't realize that they brought another of those Andy Serkis Planet of the Apes movies out.
Yeah,
it's out this month, right?
Soon.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought the first was okay. What was that one? Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
No, that was Dawn. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and then Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and now this is the War?
I really hoped the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes would be about a hairdresser who worked on the Planet of the Apes called Dawn.
Dawn.
She was just like, so where you going on your holidays? Anywhere nice? Yeah. Yeah, beautiful.
I've heard a lot of people saying bad things about this movie, but it's Tim Burton. You know, how do you go wrong with Tim Burton? What do you feel about Tim? Shut up! You shut up!
So yeah, I didn't think the one with, what's his name in? Who was it? Franco. It was Franco, right? James Franco? Mm-hmm. That was okay.
I haven't seen it. I also don't have I just don't have the love for the originals that everyone else did, you know?
Well, I mean, I think it's worth clarifying. Nobody has love for the originals. The original? Perhaps. Nobody is getting all sentimental over their coffee over Battle for the Planet of the Apes. or Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, or the Planet of the Apes TV show where the humans all spoke in it because none of the guest stars would appear in non-speaking roles.
It's one of those things where it was well into my teenage years before I realized that people actually had reverence for that movie.
Oh, it's such a good film.
Because when I first saw it, I was very young, and I was kind of under the impression that it was like one of those like Mystery Science Theater movies. I thought it was like this bullshit B-rated movie. So when I sat down and watched it, I was like, oh, "This is funny."
Oh, you scum!
I went through my entire early childhood thinking like, "Oh, everyone thinks that this is a really funny movie," and I'm in on the joke. I get it. And also I'm like, no, fuck, people actually really like this movie. Shit.
This is the thinking of a psychopath, right? Like a sociopath. Because what normal people do is they have the emotional responses they have to a thing they see. They don't go, all right, what is the the presentable front of an emotional response to Planet of the Apes?
Don't give me that bullshit. People fake their responses to that shit all the time.
How do we manufacture a socially acceptable premise to this emotionally? Sociopath.
I bet you there's people out there who legitimately enjoyed like Geely, but after everyone said everything about that movie, like, no, it's terrible.
It's like people who are afraid to come out as minority, as like gay people in oppressed nations. There are underground like survivor groups for people who like Gigli.
Yeah, sure, Owen. You make that equivalency, all right?
Actually, it's a really bad time to make that equivalency, isn't it?
Yeah, it really fucking is.
I won't do it, but do you know I've never seen Gigli?
I don't think I have either, actually. But speaking of like Mystery Science Theater and bad movies, I did watch some of that new Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of it because here's the thing: I never watched the old Mystery Science Theater, and so I still need to adjust to the premise a little bit. But I watched about the half of the first episode, and I'm going to go back to it. I quite enjoyed it. I might go back and watch the old one.
Really, I did not enjoy it that much.
Oh.
And here's why.
Well, thanks, Mr. Enthusiasm Killer.
No, because there are episodes of the old one on Netflix, right? So you can go back and see the difference. I would suggest there's one called Laser Blast. That's a really good episode. Watch that one.
Can I tell you the joke I really liked in the first episode, though?
What's that?
It's when all those duplicate Tom Servos start coming out.
Yeah.
And they're all coming out one by one. He's like, no, okay, come on, go back in. And then after they've all got back in, he just goes, Jonas, there's been a mix-up. I'm not the original Tom Servo. And he just goes, don't worry about it. Let's move on. So it was very funny.
But so here's the thing that kind of got me. I understood that they had to play up on the nostalgia factor a little bit. You know, for this to work, they were going to need the old fan base.
Right.
You know, because as a premise, it's something that just can't work anymore. Because honestly, the Sunday terrible movie on television doesn't exist anymore. You know, that used to be a thing. I mean, even when we were kids, that was a thing where it's like, oh,
when you watch TV,
Sunday.
When you watch TV and the only thing you can watch is the thing that the channel has decided to show, you watch a lot more bad movies. Like, I can't remember the last time I watched a bad movie the same way I did when I was a kid.
Right.
Because when you're a kid, they're on.
If you end up watching a bad movie, you just turn it off, or you just.
Like, I don't have broadcast TV here. I don't have a TV aerial on my roof. And you know what? I never even remember that until it comes up.
Yeah, the only time that I think about, oh man, I kind of wish I still had like network television, because yeah, I don't have the antenna, I don't have the digital converter box, I don't have any of it. I don't have network television anymore. The only time I ever think about it is during sports. Like, oh shit, you know, like the Packers are playing. Oh, I don't have that fucking channel. Fuck.
Yeah.
You know, and then I just go to the damn bar and watch it. You know, but
yeah. I do sometimes miss. In fact, one of the things I liked about getting Netflix is it did re-add into my life watching things I wouldn't otherwise have watched. And sometimes that can be a great way of getting gems, you know? But like these days, if I didn't hear about a film or a TV show, I might not see it. Obviously that makes complete sense, but yeah, you lose out the things of like just hopping around and being like, what's like, do you remember as a kid being like, I've seen this movie 3 times, I've missed the beginning every time, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's happened to me quite a bit. But okay, so like a perfect example of this is PlayStation was running a special for a while where if you bought the year subscription, they gave you an extra, I think, 3 months. So yeah, you got 15 months of the PlayStation Plus service if you bought a year. And they also gave you I think either 1 month or 3 months, one of those two, of Showtime using their View app thing. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So I bought my year subscription, and I bought it specifically to get the extra 3 months.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. I didn't care about Showtime. But I got it.
Once
so
you've got it, you load it on, and you're like, right, what won't I watch before this runs out?
Yeah, and I'm watching it, and it really dawned on me how different television is these days, because it actually was set up like an old cable channel where I go up and think, okay, well, these are the movies being shown right now. These are what you can watch. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not really interested. What else is available? No. These are what's being played right now. This is what you get to watch.
And then you backed out to the menu and you hit the options button and you said, bye-bye to the app.
Pretty much. I was like, oh, well.
Yeah, I guess I'm not using this.
And that's what I did. I never used it again. I was just like, oh, all right, whatever. No skin off my back. But that's the problem with the new MST3, is that it's written very much like the old show was written to appeal to the older audience. But the thing about it was the old MST3K was written in part by the people who did the voices. So the jokes felt very natural. It sounded like something these guys would say. And
right, like I think I've read about this. If I remember rightly, they would do a pass that was like just the genuine pass of them watching the movie and commenting.
Yeah,
and then they would
go back and add jokes.
Right, and so sometimes you would get jokes that were genuinely spontaneous, and sometimes there'd be a little bit more of riffing and scripting on it.
Yeah. And so this one feels like it was written by those original actors, or by those original writers, but the actors are not the same. And it just doesn't jive with me. I don't know. I guess I would say go and watch some of the older ones, and then watch a couple of the newer ones, and see how similarly they are written, but how completely different it sounds.
I might. I've got to actually finish up soon and head off, but one thing I wanted to mention. When I was a kid, we had a cable subscription, as you do. And I remember once they added this channel. Do you remember the era when they were just adding... It was before the internet and TV like that really started to take off, but diversification of media was happening more, so you'd get more and more channels with more and more like specific niches, or channels that just showed shit. We got a channel called the Universal Channel, and it was
Yeah, I have actually heard of that.
it was Universal Movies. It was a movies channel, no commercials, and it was all channels owned and distributed by Universal that you have never in your life heard of before or since. And I remember there were movies on there, like, there was a do you know that there's a kids movie about where a kid befriends the ghost of Coronado?
What?
It's terrible. But I watched it. I would eat up any channel that would just scroll movies like that. And I miss that. Do you ever miss it? Just seeing stuff you don't... Seeing stuff you like, even though you know it's not great. And finding hidden gems.
It's really strange considering that, I'm a co-host of a pop culture podcast. But I've never been a big movie buff. It takes like legitimate effort for me to just sit down and watch a movie.
No, I can see that.
I'm much more of a fan of going to the theater. I love going to the theater and seeing a movie. But if I'm at home, I don't generally sit down and watch movies. And it sucks because, like, I have Hulu, which is generally a television, but they now have some movies. And they have some movies that I've been really wanting to see, like Creed. They have Creed that I've been really wanting to see. I'm kind of a sucker for the Rocky movies. And
Beth and I talked about this recently, right? Neither I nor Beth have ever seen a Rocky movie. And we've discussed this many times, and that it often comes up that we should, in theory, therefore watch a Rocky movie, but we decided we don't want to.
I would suggest, because here's the thing, the Rocky movies are not great, except the first Rocky movie is legitimately a good movie, because the first Rocky movie is not, at its heart, a boxing movie.
No, it's like the first Rambo movie, First Blood, right?
Right.
It's a totally different type of movie, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost the same thing as like with Alien and Aliens.
Stallone's kind of like that, though. If you look at his career, he's done a lot of that where he's like, I should make this film that tackles this, and it'll have all kinds of credibility. And then after that he goes, and then what if I made a load of sequels that were totally different in tone and got paid a bunch of cash for them?
I always kind of felt bad for Stallone, because here's the thing, he's not a great actor,
Right, and it's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger where he wasn't even trying to be an actor.
Right. But, they kept on casting him in all these damn movies, and he got kind of typecast as an action guy. He's actually a pretty solid screenwriter, though.
Yeah. Well, he wrote Rocky, right?
He wrote the first Rocky and won an Academy Award for it. It's legitimately a really good movie. But the problem is that, it was so successful that they wanted to do sequels for it and had to essentially change everything about the original Rocky to make it happen. The biggest change is there's a character, and for the life of me, it's escaping me right now, but he plays the manager type character who he's booking the fight. And he actually plays Stallone's love interest, Adrian. He plays her brother. And in the first Rocky movie, he's a piece of shit. He hits her. He hits his own sister, and he's just a terrible human being. But then they go on to make these sequels, and they're like, oh shit, well, we kind of need his type of character. We need that manager character. Well, let's just bring him back. And they completely change him, and like everyone's all buddy and friends with him now. Like he's part of the family, even though just the movie prior he was smacking the shit out of his own sister. It's really weird. And then there's some things about the Rocky movies that just go nuts. But the first one's legitimately good. Rocky 4, where he fights Drago, um, the Russian. That was pretty good because it's cheesy in a way, but it's the epitome of the '80s movie. It really is. Like, Rocky ends the Cold War in a boxing match.
Fair enough.
But then you get to the next one, and you can tell that the next one they are trying to kind of regain the heart of the Rocky movies, because there's this whole issue with Rocky. He's out of the game. He doesn't want to fight anymore, but he's going to train, and he's going to train this up and comer boxer who essentially gets lured by a different manager with fame and fortune and stuff like that, and he just becomes a terrible person. And Rocky ends up getting into the Rocky 5 doesn't even end with a boxing match. It ends with a street fight outside of a bar, where Rocky, every time he gets hit, he's starting to realize that he has, like, I don't know if they had a term for it back then, but he's been punched so many damn times in his head that he's kind of losing his mind. So in this last fight, every time he gets punched, he's getting, like, these horrific hallucinations that look like they're from hell, of people from his past and shit like that.
Oh,
And he
good.
has to, yeah, it's a really weird moment. But
If you just joined us, you're listening to John Describes the Rocky Franchise. We'll be covering this in even more detail tomorrow, I believe.
But no, the Rocky movies are essentially what happened to the Fast and the Furious franchise. Because I to this day will maintain that first Fast and Furious movie is a legitimately good movie.
All right, see us out, John, before you embarrass yourself.
No, it's a good movie, all right? But yeah, we should wrap up. You've been listening to Those Aren't Biscuits. I have been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadotte. With me, as always, Owen Adams.
Bye, guys.
Where can they find you?
Oh, my Twitter account, my YouTube account, and my blog and stuff by going to theowenadamsproject.com, youtube.com/Owen Adams, or at Illogicology. Do it. Sorry, I'm really sleepy.
That's fine. And you can find me at my blog, which is johncperson.wordpress.com, or on Twitter, which is at johncperson. You can follow the show directly, which is at Not Biscuits. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Not Biscuits. You can find our blog, which is notbiscuits.wordpress.com, or you can email us, which is notbiscuits@gmail.com. Have a good one.
Hey! That went well.
Yeah.
Alright. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.